Here's another source. Now, this is actually mainstream, so this is no longer conspiracy. And I've gotten this from a person who has very strong connections, okay, with the federal world. So that's all I'm going to say. And he actually gave me this video source. So this is by Gravitas, actually. Their title is Wuhan Coronavirus. Will China Profit from the Outbreak? That's the title of the YouTube video. I highly, strongly recommend to watch that, because that's no longer conspiracy, it's mainstream news. And the news journalist says, we're not interested in conspiracy theories. That's what the news journalist said. But then she pointed out all these facts about China, where economic-wise, all these nations are depending upon it, about the production of the mask and stuff like that. And she also mentioned over here that it's very strange that after this coronavirus situation, where their people were dying out, that immediately they're picking up the economy, and this is what she said, they're ahead of all the nations right now, economically speaking. Yeah. But in that video, she mentions that in the late 90s, the Chinese Communist Party, by communist generals, had a book. And this book was How to Conquer Nations. And in their book, this is what they said. We can't go toe-to-toe with America military-wise. The only way we can get ahead of the world is what? Economically. We can be ahead of them economically. This is not from Dr. Gene Kim. This is a mainstream news source. And he got this from a person who has more credential background than I do. But if you just doubt me, look, just these silly little trolls, you know, look, if you just doubt me, look it up in the mainstream news, okay? Mainstream news, okay? And confirm it. Here's something else that's interesting. Some of the people, how they try to debunk the conspiracy about, you know, would the Chinese government with this bio leak, or if it's not a leak, if it's a deliberate thing that they infested their people, why would they deliberately do that where it infects and then kills their own people, right? That's their logic. But you know what's really interesting here? See, this was at an area that a lot of people didn't even heard of the city before until recently, Wuhan. All right, a lot of there are some people who never heard about that before. So this obscure region, that's where a lot of the deaths were coming out. But think about the big shot cities, right? Isn't it strange that when you get big shot cities like Shanghai and China, where they had very, very few number of deaths? Wow. You know what? I'm getting this from Gravitas. Now, the numbers may have changed, but look, it's not too, this is not too far-fetched right over here. This is around the date of, let's see over here, it's not going to show. But this is not too long ago. And you can look at the numbers even right now and check and see if the numbers are low. Beijing, confirmed cases, 569. Deaths, you know how many? 8. Shanghai, confirmed cases, 468. You know how many deaths? 5. Look at New York City and look at California. This makes you wonder. Isn't that strange? Very, very strange. Makes you start to think, well, you know, I'm not, look, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist, okay? Deny conspiracy theories. We don't care about that. These are facts from statistics and numbers. Now, the number may have changed, so you can look it up at the Johns Hopkins University and stuff like that. And I do want you to look it up, because you might be a little troubled when you look at the numbers then. Yikes. Now, is it true that we're getting to a point now where people are getting this kind of more socialist or government control, so to speak? That's the bottom line of these ideologies, right? It's more governmental control, right? That's the bottom line of this Chinese government ideology and communism, socialism. That's why a lot of Bible-believing Christians, churches, right-wingers, etc., whoever, that's why they don't like the system where America's leaning toward left-wing, because the bottom line is governmental control, right? Yeah. Now, Is America following the pattern? Well, it's very interesting where Robert Kennedy Jr., part of the powerful Kennedy family, and that guy has been receiving attention. He posted this video where you can look at his Facebook account, and he showed, which is very interesting, how China was able to prevent more number of deaths was because everybody's technology and phone was getting tracked about if you're a yellow light or a green light or a certain light. And because everybody's being tracked about if you have the virus or not, that's why we can prevent this pandemic effect where this coronavirus is infecting more people. Now that's very inviting, and it is understandable if you don't believe in the Bible. And I have to admit this, if you're all about politics, it is understandable, and I would even go for that too. And that's what Satan goes for. Look, when he sets up his Antichrist socialist government, it's not going to be based on bad arguments. It's going to be based on good, legitimate arguments. Satan's not stupid. The only thing that prevents us from following that is what? What God prophesied at his word. Amen. So, is America falling to this in the tech divisions? Let's look at the tech divisions. And look at what's so interesting, if you look at that Gravitas video that I mentioned to you, there are these tech companies that have connections with China and their businesses and their branches over there. They're starting up and getting on track. Yeah. So they're going to be more leaning toward this, perhaps. Perhaps, maybe, they'll be leaning more toward the ideology that the Chinese government is promoting. Well, let's look at several examples. This is by the source silicon.co.uk. This is by April 3rd, 2020, by Tom Jowett. The title of the article is Coronavirus, Google releases location data to help authorities check lockdowns. Location data is being released by Google in 131 countries so officials can see if people are obeying self-isolating rules. You can double check with that. You can double check with that if you doubt the legitimacy of the sources. I'm going to give you basically all these other sources where I might have to say to you that you don't have to believe in the credibility or legitimacy of these sources. I'm just going to quote you these sources, what they say, and all you have to do is look up these tech companies and see if they're doing that. It's that simple. Do the research. Here's another one. Landing AI explained that the system works, so here's a different tech. Landing AI explained that the system works by using an artificial neural network to detect each person and puts them in a box. Then if two boxes get too close to each other, they change from green to red. Wait a minute, that's kind of similar with what I told you about what Robert Kennedy Jr. warned about what China was doing. At that point, it will be up to the police to send in compliance robots, kill squads, or whatever they have decided we deserve. That's what this author complained. A similar technology is already being introduced by Amazon in its warehouses, with the company threatening workers with the sack if they violate social distancing guidelines. Police in Westport, Connecticut are also going to be testing a pandemic drone that monitors citizens' temperatures from almost 200 feet away and detects sneezing and coughing as well as heart and breathing rates. Developed by Dragonfly Incorporation. Isn't it interesting? It's almost like Dagon, so to speak. But anyways, that's just something wild. You don't have to believe that part. Yeah, you don't have to believe that. Or Lord of the Flies, yeah. But forget that. Developed by Dragonfly Incorporation, the software loaded onto the drone cameras also identifies individuals whose safe distance areas turn red if they get too close to each other. Here's another one. County launches website for citizens to report neighbors violating stay-at-home order. Residents of Sedgwick County, Kentucky, are being encouraged to report their neighbors to police if they catch them defying the state's stay-at-home order. The county has set up a website for nosy citizens to, what the author complains, to tattle on their countrymen. If it is determined that a non-essential business, quote unquote, if it is determined that a non-essential business is operating or a non-essential activity is occurring, they will be contacted as appropriate. Now, do I agree with every specific with these articles that I read to you just now? I'll admit no, because I cannot confirm the credibility of these sources, but I will tell you one matter-of-fact statement. Tech companies are trying to help out to prevent the pandemic situation where they can keep track of people. That is fact. That is fact. How about that? See, this is what? I told you the whole world is what? Basing on what ideology? This is the key. I keep trying to tell you. This is the key. Whether it's a communist extreme or a lesser extreme, or whether it's connected to China in some way or dependent on China some way, everything is coming down to this matter of fact. And that is demanded. You know why that has to happen? Because how can the Antichrist rule the whole world if they don't have governmental control? How about that? That book is so amazing.